Hello sheeple. Let's take a look at the current situation. The war in the Middle East is escalating to the point of absolute lunacy. And then look at the war in Ukraine. That was an incredibly stupid and obviously pointless war. I've described this clearly in many other videos. The ones who organised it and made it happen knew that there was no possible ethical or practical solution there. Everything was set up, and clearly, Abysmal Rail now is wanting to unalive and torture all its neighbours, starting, as we know, with Palestine on to Lebanon, Iran, and it just wants to pummel everybody that it wants to steal land from. And the West, we're funding it, mainly the USA, but we're all funding and fueling all of this. Even if look at our governments, even if we're dying in floods and fires or hurricanes or whatever of this man-made intentional weather manipulation, our governments don't help us because they're they don't care, and two, they're too busy sending all our aid money abroad so they can fund these genocides. I'm a silver muzzler, which means I'm old. And when I was growing up, I for example, thinking of Abysmal Rail, I heard nothing but the bitching and complaining from the poos and the hovercraft. Hopefully you know what I mean when who the poos and their hovercraft is. Try not to get banned on PooTube and Dickcock. Mainly we were bombarded with films like the 1993 Schindler's List, and constant bombardment and onslaught from about the poos and their nonsense from the mainstream media whores. And as I said, you know what I mean when I say the poos and hovercraft. Anyway, what about why nothing but them? What about the millions of Russians that suffered and died horrendously in Bolsheviks or war and famine? What about child trafficking? What about the African slave trade? None of this matters. It's only the poos and their hovercraft. And now there's a big push yet again to end, and I can picture this when I was younger, an absolute push to attack and pummel people that were claimed to be anti-Semolina. You know what I mean when I say that. And one of the main people that are pushing that nonsense now is the fraud that Donald Trump is. And as I said, you know what I mean when I say anti-Semolina. If you're still voting or believing in the legitimacy of government in any way, then you are feeding the satanic monster that controls all of humanity. You and your whole community must get independent, food-wise, power-wise, etc., and no longer be a slave to those in charge of your life and possibly your soul. Okay, a few more points before I sign off. Trump has backflipped on so many of his promises. He's draining no swamps, I can assure you that. He's adding to it. So I don't know how some lunatics still believe in him. No rich businessman that turns into a politician is going to save you, because that's just pathetic. Trump worships Abysmal Rail that houses vile criminals, 3D prints meats for people to eat. I wouldn't be surprised if it was produced with human cells, because they like doing sick stuff like that. It smacks abominates all its own citizens, smacks abominates the animals and everything that moves. Yeah, it issues out gender-bending drugs galore, tries to flood the West with immigrants while we pay for all of Abysmal Rail's missiles to help it genocide all its neighbours so it can steal their land. Elon Musk, the guy who wants to put microchips in your brain to completely dehumanise you, obviously, well, that kind of person is going to love Trump and Abysmal Row. And a lot of the fake alternative media like Ben Shapiro and lunatics like that, they're going to love all this mainstream evil media whorism, and they're going to pretend to be alternative, they're going to pretend to be alternative media, they're going to pretend to be anti-establishment, but on much lesser issues. The moonlight fades on the morning glow. Good night, sheeple.